The Southern Poverty Law Center hit with accusations of racial discrimination and sexual harassment. The group now facing a possible IRS investigation into its tax-exempt status. Correspondent Trace Gallagher picks up the story from there. Good evening, Trace.
Good evening, Shannon. In his letter to the IRS, GOP Senator Tom Cotton is calling for an investigation into whether the Southern Poverty Law Center should retain its 501c3 tax-exempt status. Cotton says the probe is needed for, quote, protecting taxpayer dollars from a racist and sexist slush fund devoted to defamation. In other words, should the group, which is estimated to have more than $500 million in assets, use its nonprofit status to mask highly political funding? Here's what Tom Cotton told Tucker Carlson. Watch.
They've really become kind of a hate group themselves. They
Yes.
have this so-called hate map, and they use it to stigmatize their political opponents. You know, respectable center-right organizations like the Family Research Council, their Alliance Defending Freedom.
In fact, when the Family Research Council was added to the hate list in 2012, a gunman targeting FRC officials walked into the organization's headquarters in D.C. and shot a guard. SPLC has also been widely criticized for adding people like Majid Nawaz and Ayan Hirsi Ali to its list of anti-Muslim extremists, and Dr. Ben Carson for allegedly being anti-gay. His name was later removed. The SPLC is also enmeshed in major internal problems. Last month, its co-founder, Morris Dees, was fired reportedly for alleged sexual harassment. 8 days later, SPLC President Richard Cohen resigned. So now, to review the SPLC's practices and policies, the group has brought in Michelle Obama's former chief of staff, Tina Chen, which set off more conservative alarm bells because it was Chen who contacted Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx on behalf of the actor Jussie Smollett. Chen wanted the case moved to the FBI. It wasn't. Instead, all the charges were mysteriously dropped. The Southern Poverty Law Center has been deleted from the FBI's list of legitimate sources on hate crimes, and conservatives would like the media to quit relying on the group as well. Shannon.
Yeah, we're going to debate that now. Trace, thank you very much.
Sure.
Well, critics of the embattled SPLC are publicly calling for the media and also various big-name companies to quit relying on the controversial organization to decide who should be labeled a hate group. Let's bring in Tony Perkins, who is the president of the Family Research Council. He's been on the hate map. And Ethan Behrman, host of Left Coast News, is back with us. Thank you both.
Good to be with you, Shannon.
Okay, so listen, the SPLC, a lot of folks will agree, had great origins. I mean, they were going after terrible organizations like the KKK. This is what they say they do on their website. They monitor hate groups, expose activities to public media and law enforcement. They teach tolerance to reduce prejudice, and they seek justice for the most vulnerable. Tony, what's wrong with that?
Well, nothing, if that's what they were doing. And somewhere along the way, the Southern Poverty Law Center morphed into something much different. And I feel sorry for those people who invested their lives to fight for true civil rights. But it morphed into an organization led by con artists that were selling hate for cash. And in fact, what they would do is that they would label, in exchange for cash, from leftist groups, the conservative organizations like the Family Research Council, parents groups, you name it, Alliance Defending Freedom, groups that the left disagreed with.
Yeah, and we know you had an incident at the Family Research Council in which somebody showed up, shot your security guard, said they were going to shoot up a bunch of people there because of what they saw on SPLC website. So you have a personal connection to this,
yeah, we did. We had a gunman that came into our building with 100 rounds of ammunition, 15 Chick-fil-A sandwiches, and a hate list from the Southern Poverty Law Center, and it shot one of our team members. It's the same group that inspired the shooting. At least it was linked to the shooting of my friend Steve Scalise. Mm-hmm. All designed to silence people on the right. And these types of events could lead to permanently silencing
let's bring Ethan in here. So Ethan, I mean, folks agree that there were good origins. They feel, many people on the left and the right who have done investigative reporting, that somehow it has gotten off the tracks with these large bank coffers and a number of people all leaving at once with allegations going on. Senator Tom Cotton, in that letter asking the IRS to look into their tax-exempt status, says SPLC's defining characteristic is to fundraise off of defamation. While IRS guidance lists several examples of tax-exempt purposes, engaging in defamation as a business model is, of course, not one of them. What questions do you have? I mean, are you worried about things that have happened there in the recent past?
Well, I'm always worried when we're talking about money that's being raised improperly or spent improperly that would potentially violate 501c3 regulations. So on that point, I think it's always worth investigating if there is corruption that is occurring. However, I think Senator Cotton respectfully does not understand what the word defamation is or what it means under the law, because if you say something that is true, so for example, Tony Perkins has a page on the SPLC's website.
He does.
If they're saying something that is false, then that would be defamation. But truth is an absolute defense. So if there's something wrong on Tony Perkins' page, that would be a problem. But I want to clarify something that Mr. Perkins just said, which is about civil rights. LGBTQ rights are civil rights. Muslims have civil rights in this country under our First Amendment. So if people are openly attacking LGBTQ citizens, fighting against them having equal rights, which of course under our federal laws, they still don't have equal rights, that is something that people are fighting about. And if you're fighting against that, they might view it, and possibly rightfully so, as hateful. But you know, truth is an absolute defense, and I think that's really important when we bring up the word defamation.
Tony, what about that? Because I have seen your page on the website.
Yeah, Steve Scalise had a page up on there, Ben Carson, as we talked about. But look, we support free speech, we support the free exchange of ideas, but we don't support the government underwriting organizations that incite violence that are linked to domestic terrorism. That's the Southern Poverty Law Center, linked in federal court to domestic terrorism by inciting this type of violence where people are being shot. This is wrong, Shannon. We can have a right to disagree over issues and argue over those issues, but we don't have a right to label people, pushing them, marginalizing, trying to silence them, inciting violence. That's what the Southern Poverty Law Center is doing.
All right, 10 seconds, Ethan, or we're going to get cut off.
Yeah, so Tony, it's really important here. That's an incident that was horrible, but what about all the other hate groups that are committing violence? White supremacists are the #1 domestic terrorist group.
I'll join with you. I will join with you in doing that. We're talking about Christian organizations that believe in the biblical definition of morality and marriage, because the Southern Poverty Law Center, working with the left, trying to silence and intimidate and inciting violence against them. That's wrong.
We got to leave it there,
but have to agree to that.
But it's good that you guys agree. We all agree. White supremacy and other threats like that have no place, and they should be called out. So Ethan and Tony, thank you both very much.